Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm joined once again by David Bray. It's March 30th, 2021. Damn it. These years are flying by. And Olympic Trials Week.
Olympic Trials Week.
Up.
Oh, man. I can't wait. We've had to wait
A year?
forever. It's been 5 years since the last Olympic Trials. It's crazy.
Merry Christmas, yeah. I'm ready to roll. We got our first guest on today. It's Gabe Dean. Just won the last chance qualifier, qualified for the Olympic Trials. Well, Gabe, how you doing today? Joining us from Fort Worth, I presume.
I'm good, yeah. I'm here in Fort Worth and just getting ready for Friday. So doing well.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, you bet. Congrats on the victory at last chance qualifier. I want to know, your dad, wrestled. You grew up kind of in a wrestling family, right? But what's the first Olympics you remember? For me, I think it was '92 with John Smith. But what's the first Olympics? Who was like competing, or what do you remember about the first Olympics you watched wrestling wise, right?
Oh, geez, man. Well, the first Olympic trials that I attended, I was 1 year old, and my dad was competing in it. So it's actually, he wrestled Randy Couture for third, and ended up taking third and beat Randy Couture in it. And there's a picture of us, and my mom placed me on his lap, and it's the moment he decided to retire, and I was one. So pretty
Wow.
crazy.
I'm assuming you don't actually remember that, but you see the pictures and it brings back.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I just I see the picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures, just because it's kind of the moment he decided to really stop wrestling and really just be a father, and kind of take his kids on this journey too. So
Yeah. What year was that?
I was one, so that must have been 1996. Yeah, 1996.
Okay.
So,
Um,
yeah.
you're 1 year old. You don't remember. Do you remember anything about the 2000 Olympics or '04?
Not too much. You guys got to forget, I was kind of a football kid growing up, so I was more interested in what the college football and NFL stuff was going on. I didn't follow wrestling too closely, so
Okay.
not too much.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you remember 16, 12. Do you remember 8? Do you remember '04? Like, do you just remember, like, even hearing, like, Cael Sanderson won, or Henry Cejudo won, or Jordan Burroughs?
I remember right around when Henry Cejudo won his Olympic gold medals when I kind of really started getting into it. And then, yeah, obviously, since then, with Burroughs and, all that good stuff I've been following. But right around when Cejudo won, it was kind of when I started paying attention to the Olympic stuff. So,
And when did it become a dream or a goal of yours to win the Olympics? And was it not till this past summer? I don't know.
yeah, I guess, it never really was a big draw for me when I was in college. And I really loved college wrestling, and that was kind of my thing. And then I started, I was wrestling with Dake all the time and being his training partner in the World Championships and helping him. And I was still retired though, and I didn't have any plans of coming back. And then like I tell the story a couple times now. I came out for that Flow 8-man bracket, and then one thing led to another, and I wrestled David at an NLWC event, and it was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna give this a go and give it a shot. If there's a time to do it, it's now. There's a recruiting shutdown. Cornell's not having a season, so if there's a time to do it, it's right now.
So, and we were just talking a little bit off before we started going live. Like, you come down, Dake's wrestling Chamizo, and I think you helped him wrestle, and Pat Downey was out, so we were looking for a replacement. Like, at what point was it like, maybe I'll do this again? Was it not till the 195, or was it like, is that what actually made you think maybe I'll dust them off and see if I can't win a couple bucks?
I think it wasn't until the 195 bracket came out that I ever thought about competing again. And then I was like, well, I'll jump in this. I'm still training in the room. I'm not in like tip-top shape by any means, and I was way bigger. My base weight was way bigger than I am now. But I was like, it's 195. I can get down there and compete there. And it was fun when I was down there with Dake and Chamizo for that event, and I enjoyed the setup and everything. So, but then Coach Cole was like, "Hey, if you haven't wrestled in 4 years, you should probably jump in the U.S. Open just to get ready." Little did I know he was probably thinking, maybe I can get this dude to start wrestling again. And so jumped in the U.S. Open, and didn't feel great by any means. I'm glad that I did it just to get the matches, and yeah, I was really rusty, but and then just then win the 8-man thing, and unfortunately, forced a gut wrench what happened there, but bounced back, and I just have a wonderful team of people around me too, and support that just made sense. I had all the right resources in place, and wrestled. Finally got the chance to wrestle David, and it was like, okay, this is something that I need to. This is something I need to do. I need to try to go for. The timing's right. Everything's kind of right for this opportunity, and I love the challenge. I thoroughly enjoy the challenge that it brings. So it's exciting. It's fun. I'm enjoying every second of it.
When we talked to you a few months ago, you were telling us about how the passing of your uncle like really helped you think about just taking advantage of opportunities that come along, because they don't come along every day. What has it been like kind of training and competing now for a few months with that experience and that kind of mentality? Maybe is that different than how you trained and competed before you were retired?
My family is just extremely close. I'm from a small town in Michigan, and cousins each way grew up down the street from me 5 minutes. And grandparents, were 5 minutes the other way. So we all grew up playing football and wrestling together, and we were all over. Everybody was over at each other's houses for dinners and holidays and everything. I mean, it's really not even like cousins. They're all like extended brothers to me. And my uncle Steve, watching him go through that and battle through that, and finally, finally he passed away, and it just, it gives you a little bit perspective on life. It's the first time I've really ever been through that with a really, really, really close family member of mine. And so when I'm training, and when I'm, and you guys know, when you're training and you're digging deep and you're pushing through practices and things feel like, hell, I just think about my Uncle Steve, and I'm like, this is nothing compared to what that guy was going through and what he was doing. And, not even that, but what is, my two cousins and my aunt, the strength that they had to have through all that. And, wrestling practice, even though it feels like I'm dying, I can push through if they're able to have all that strength to get through that. And, yeah, definitely it sits in the back of my mind whenever I'm hurting the most in practice and everything. I think about them, and I think about him, and it allows me to dig deep for sure.
Growing up in that small town, and as you said, right, your eyes weren't really focused on like Olympics or Olympic wrestling. It was like you're a football guy. So I guess similar question, but we'll take it with football. When you were growing up, who do you remember winning Super Bowls? Who was the Tom Brady of that era? Who did you want to be, or be like?
I was a
Whatever.
huge Yeah, I was a huge Brett Favre guy. I was like, that was I loved the Packers. I loved Brett Favre. I mean, I remember watching Air Bud when I was a little kid, and there was a scene. And this is how the whole quarterback thing started. Actually, there was a scene where the kid asked his dad if he has a killer arm, and I turned to my dad and I was like, "Do I have a killer arm?" And he's like, "I don't know. You never thrown it. We have." I was like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old at the time, and so he took me out in the yard and started throwing the football around. And I'd always ask, "Dad, do I have a killer arm?" Because the Air Bud movie, And I started, and then I started watching it a lot. And Brett Favre was like the guy, during that age where I was developing, and just became a huge Brett Favre fan, and still have a little jersey that I used to wear. And yeah, that was the guy. He was the guy, though. That Brett Favre was the guy. So.
Was there anything about not just being the guy, but anything about him as a person or the way he approached or played the game that you liked?
Yeah, he was just like, he wasn't super big, he wasn't like a freak athlete. But he made stuff happen, and he was like kind of a rough and tough player. You see him take shots in games all the time, and he was just like a trench guy, you know. It just like when the game was on the line, it seemed like he was figuring it out, and he just wasn't a flashy prototypical quarterback. He was like guy right there, just get taking shots, taking hits, making plays happen, and I just love that about I love that about him ever since I was a kid. I was just like he wasn't a pretty boy or anything like that, and I really like that.
How similar or different was that from the way you played the game, the type of football player you were?
It was pretty similar. I definitely wasn't a pretty boy by any means. My dad will always tell you that Max is the tougher one out of both of us, which is probably true. He's a running back and he was a middle linebacker, but I I I was I was a guy. I mean, I ran the ball a ton. I was more like a glorified running back that could throw every now and then. So we ran an option offense. So I and we had great schemes. And my uncle was the head coach. So my dad was the head coach for wrestling in my town, and my uncle was the head coach for football. So I had nowhere to hide, anyways, and I had to be tough. It was just not an option not to be. So I was definitely a trench type player, more like Brett Favre in that sense at the high school level.
Yeah. Um, and maybe you've told me this. When did it shift from football to wrestling? And maybe did you go to a camp and you're too short and too slow or something to be a quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, I realized it wasn't even the fact that it was a harsh reality from what I experienced at that combine.
Combine.
It wasn't even the fact that they said to me that I was too short and too slow and all that stuff. I mean, it was more the fact that they were right, and the only way for me to reach the pinnacle in a sport was to go the wrestling route. I wasn't going to be the next Cam Newton, at the time, and and the other thing that is like I need in my life, when I go for things and I go to try to accomplish things, like I need to go to bed at night knowing that I was the one accountable, whether I failed or I succeeded. I didn't like resting my destiny in somebody else's hands, and that's what I love about wrestling. Maybe some people struggle with the accountability piece, but I was raised my whole life that how important it was to be accountable and to be able to rest peacefully at night, knowing that you did everything you could and that it was in your control at the end of the day, whether success or failure happened. And wrestling definitely, it became clear that wrestling was that sport for me and in that time. So I was going into my senior year in high school, and that's when I decided that I was going to wrestle in college. I was not by any means a blue chip recruit or any of that. I'm just, I was, I was just a normal kid from a small town, just knew how to work and was raised on the right values.
Did you follow wrestling at all? Did you know who Cale Sanderson was when you were in high school, or you can name a bunch of other people?
Not really. I mean, I was, I knew of Cal Sanderson. He's a big name, but I wasn't, I didn't follow it. It wasn't, there wasn't this media like there is now either.
Yeah.
This has become new in the past, I'd say, I don't know, decade or so. So when I was in high school, it wasn't very prevalent yet. So I didn't really follow it too closely. Had my dreams on being a college football player right up into that, right up into that moment when I was going into my senior year in high school, and um, it just one door closes, another one opens, and that's exactly what happened. And so I just saw everything for what it was and where the most opportunity was going to be, and that was at Cornell. So
Did that shift from like wanting to be a college football player, NFL star, to wanting to wrestle in college? Did it immediately, was it like, I want to win NCAA titles? Or was it just like, I'll go to Cornell and see what happens?
I was like, I winning the national title seemed so far away from anything that I could do in that moment. It was more like, well, I'm not very good at wrestling. I'm good. I'm good enough to wrestle at the Division I level, but I'm not like, at that time Morgan McIntosh was the guy, and I wasn't
Yeah.
even near his level. I mean, clearly, he kind of kicked the crap out of me at Flow Nationals a couple years in a row there, and I just I remember thinking to myself, I actually called Damien one spring, first spring that I was there. I was taking my gap year, and I just got myself so worked up, and I was just like, I just want to be an All-American so bad, you know. Coach, I want to be an All-American so bad. He's like, Gabe, it's April right now, you know. It's you got 11 months until we don't even know if you're going to start or anything at that time. I mean, I hadn't won a college open. I took fifth and second at a lot of these little rinky-dink opens, and I hadn't had a lot of success at all at the college level, even in my first year. So I'm sure he's funny because we talk about it still, and he's like, you know, he's kind of blown away just that I was calling him in April about being an All-American. And just like anything in life, you know, you accomplish that thing, and then you're like, well, you know, now I kind of want to see him try and be a national champ. And then that happened, and you know, you think your life's going to be set, you know, if you just accomplish one thing, but you realize like that's not the case. There's got to be something that you're always going for to keep you. It's just the way I'm built anyway. So I remember thinking to myself when I was in first year, if I could be an All-American, my life would be made.
Where did that sense of
So
urgency? Where did that sense of urgency come from in April, like of your gap year, where all of a sudden you're just like, I have to be an All-American next year? How, like, did it just you woke up one morning and you felt like that, or what? What happened?
I remember I was spending the day, and I was surrounded by guys like Cam Simez and Steve Bozak was still there, and you know, Dake was obviously there, and um, they just you know, I saw what these guys had done, and I just thought to myself, you know, there's probably no way that I could ever get to that level, but I would just love to have a taste of what that's like to be on that level just one time. And I was just sitting there thinking about it, and I was surrounded by it every day, champions and amazing athletes, and I just remember thinking to myself, man, if I could just do it once, I wouldn't need to accomplish anything more. I'd be set. But and I got myself all worked up about it, so I called Damien. You know, Damien was my guy, and unfortunately for him, in this moment, he was probably just like, dude, I have this crazy, psycho little freshman, you know, that just I don't, you know, but and at that time, you know, it didn't even know if I was going to start. We had a really good guy there. Billy George was tough, and you know, I hadn't done anything by any means. I showed no promise, probably at all, and it just just got myself worked up a day in the spring, and gave him a call, and he was like, dude, it's 11 months. Nationals is 11 months away right now. You know, like, what are we doing right? You know, and but you know, it kind of just took off from there.
You brought up Cam Simez, and this I can't remember the story, but there was a story there about chicken wings and him like kicking your ass or making fun of you. Does this sound familiar?
Oh yeah, that was my first college open. So we wrestled at the Buffalo Open. It doesn't even exist anymore, but the we wrestled at the Buffalo Open, and we go, and I went 0 and 2. I went 0 and 2, and so he takes us after the tournament to this where the original Buffalo Wings, you know, originated that spot, and takes us there, and he orders all these buffalo wings and everything, and gets some barbecue wings, and I go to reach, for a buffalo wing, and he goes, whoa, 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 you can't have any of those. I was like, why? And he's like, you went 0 and 2 barbecue, you can only eat barbecue wings. And I was like, and there's a lot of backstory, you know, this guy tortured me every day, it seemed like, in a good way, you know. It's like he was adjusting me to college, and he grew up about 45 minutes away from where I grew up in Michigan, and you know, his younger brother, and he just and it just I was so angry. I got up from the table because I had tears in my eyes because I just wanted to kill him. But yeah, he wouldn't let me eat any buffalo wings, and but Cam was a huge role model for me, a huge influence on me that whole year. Always, you know, just upbeat about how hard we wrestled, how, you know, how much effort we put in. Results did not matter to him as much as just effort, and he really taught me, you know, how to get to the next level. And I was inspired by the way he wrestled. I mean, he wrestled so hard. Just I remember one day we did like an hour go, and he ankle picked me so many times, but there was a rule that you just never stopped wrestling no matter what. And he ankle picked me so many times that I lost my shoe on my left foot, and then I lost my sock after I lost my shoe, and I was wrestling with one bare foot, and one just like regular, like I had a wrestling shoe on my right foot. And but it just that's the kind of guy he was, and I was so lucky to have a mentor like that at such a young age.
Sure.
So
So skipping ahead to, I guess, retirement, was it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it almost seems like retirement and unretirement were both like, there wasn't like a boom, I'm retired and boom, I'm back. It was kind of like you wrestle and then we just kind of never saw you compete again. So it's like, I guess he's retired, but there's no leave the shoes on the mat or make an announcement. There's just like, oh, I guess that was his last tournament. And then it seemed like the same thing on the other side. I guess he's actually back in
yeah,
this.
yeah. When I lost in the national finals, senior year, that was,
Oh boy.
uh, that definitely showed. And I just I need I didn't, and then I started coaching, and I got in there, and my brother was coming up and through, and we were on the recruiting a lot, and I was learning a lot from Coach Cole and Mike Gray and these guys and Damien, was there for my first year, and it was just a huge growth time for me, and I really fell in love with coaching, and I just kind of was like, you know what, it's not about me anymore. It's more about, my energy and my time is best invested into these kids, more than trying to accomplish anything more for myself. And I started doing that, and I realized, how happy it made me, how much joy you can get out of, just investing yourself in other people. It kind of became it still is my purpose in life, post college career, and then, and I'm not into drama, I don't need a lot of attention. I'm not a big like leave your shoes in the middle of the mat guy,
Right.
it's just it wasn't, and I didn't know, but I just started coaching and I got into it and I loved it, and my, kind of refound my purpose in life, and then I came, this fall, and all this pandemic stuff hit, and things got shut down, and it was like, well, I can't. It's really hard to be there as a coach right now when Cornell doesn't have a season, and the Ivy League shuts down, and then recruiting shuts down, and then at the same time, FloWrestling's doing an 8-man bracket, you can win 20 grand. It's not bad, not bad chunk of change, um, I was with Dake for all this Olympic stuff, when I was Kazakhstan and Germany for the training camp, and Kazakhstan for the World Championships, and it was just like, and Derringer's, the Derringer match, I was his training partner through all that. So I was like, if there was a year to really go for it and just put it all on the line, just like anything, just like I said, things that keep me going are just new fun challenges in life. And it just seemed like the perfect timing to go for it. But I'm also a realist, so I wasn't gonna continue to compete if it just wasn't going to be impossible for me to make the team. But after competing a little bit, it was like, well, you can do this. And so I just went back into that mode where, diet, training, extracurricular training, all that stuff, supplemental stuff and I just went hardcore at it. And I never know what's going to happen. I'm very unassuming in anything. It's not in my control. It's not in my control the result of a wrestling match. What's going to happen is going to happen. But and that's kind of life too. You never know what the heck the next day is going to bring. But you just work. You focus on everything that's in your control, working hard, doing the right things, living by your purpose, and and importantly enjoying it. Then here we are. I just kind of, I'm very unassuming, Bader. I'm not, I don't, I wouldn't have told you a year ago that I'd be sitting here right now. So,
Sure. Um, you're training with Kyle, right? Like he's getting ready for Worlds, he's getting ready for the Olympics. They're pushed there, but you're like, I've been up there. You're in the room training with him, like every time I go up there. Did you feel? And Rob Cole's telling me, and probably the other people, Gabe Dean is dang good. Gabe Dean's going with Kyle Dake. He beats him some days. Gabe Dean, I'm telling you, he should. Did you feel yourself getting better? Did you know you were getting better over this time, or were you just trying to be Kyle's workout partner?
Well, for sure, I think when you become a coach, you automatically get better. I think that's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's one. But then, yeah, I mean, training with the best guy in the world, on a daily basis, I definitely felt myself getting better. And it was about him, it was all about him, making the world team and then becoming a world champion for the second time in a row. But then, I'm in those conversations. I'm working on technique. We're doing things, we're feeling out positions, we're sparring, like, and when I'm doing that almost on a daily basis. It's like in helping him prepare to win a world championship. You're definitely getting a lot better, whether you like it or not. It's just you put yourself next to the best guy in the world at anything, and you're right in the middle of all those details. You're gonna get better. Just if and I just enjoyed it. And so wrestling with him all the time and helping him get ready definitely had a huge, profound effect on my overall wrestling IQ and just getting better at wrestling in general, for sure. Made me a better coach as well, which was at the time most important to me. So it's just, yeah, I could definitely feel myself developing as a technician and as a wrestler in general during that time.
Was there a moment or a match or whatever when you're like, I'm all in. I'm back in. Because at first it was like I'm gonna wrestle on the flow thing, so I guess I'll wrestle on the senior nationals to get ready for that. And then it's one match after another. You wrestled three, I think, recently in one night or two or three. But was it before David, after David, before that, or after that that you're like, let's do it. Let's make a run for the trials and try to go to Tokyo.
That night after I wrestled David, I found a little place. Me and my brother went and sat down at a restaurant, and we were sitting there, and he said to me, which this meant the world to me, because still it just is about him and his teammates. That's what I was still thinking. But he said to me, Gabe, you gotta do it. You gotta go for it, man. And when he said that to me, um, it just clicked for me because it was my brother, and he was supporting me going for it, which he always would. It's not that he wouldn't, but it was just like, Gabe, you got to go be an athlete for the next 6 months and try to get this and try to do this. You got to. And when he said that to me, it was like, okay, you're right, 100%. Let's go for it. And to have a kid in college, whether it's my brother or it's any of the other kids that we have, is had a profound effect on me. Just with you know, like I said, get up about them. But when they tell you that, hey, we need you to go for this, it definitely has a profound effect on your decision making.
Was there a different, I don't know what the word is, outlook or perspective on what you're doing at that time? Before it's like, okay, I'm training to get ready for this match and for the tournament and to wrestle at Flow and to wrestle David. But then was there like this, like, oh, not oh crap, but like, oh, all right, here we go. Like this, my life now becomes trying to make this Olympic team. Were there like different emotions attached with maybe post that conversation or during that conversation with your brother?
Not different emotions, just how you live your everyday life now is, not that I wasn't a disciplined guy before, but
Yeah.
it's just like now, like I said, it goes back to, like, I need to know that I did everything in my power, win or lose, that I put myself in the best position to do it. So I just started living my life, my diet, the way I trained, the way I approached everything was just ramped up on another level. Just like I was back in college competing. But mentally, you know, I think in college, wrestling, I let kind of define me as, it's like Gabe Dean, the wrestler. It was like in my mind, like win or lose, like that kind of defined me, which is not a very healthy thing to do. And now I have this very light, just I'm so many other more things than just trying to make an Olympic team. I'm a coach. I'm involved in all these young people's lives and trying to help them get better. I do other business stuff on the side, and I'm able to kind of compartmentalize everything, and I enjoy working on every single one of them. But I kind of combined, like, my discipline in college to, my kind of my outlook on life now as a 26-year-old guy, and it's been like this incredible. I wish I could have done that in college, where I wasn't defining myself on just being a wrestler, but I was just in, it's been really just kind of this fun, enjoyable challenge and process, just because I'm older and probably more seasoned just as just a person in general.
Yeah.
So
A lot of times when somebody comes out of retirement, you have to kind of like guess where they're at competitively. But I mean, you've had the chance to see a lot of the best guys at the weight already. Really close match with David, and that's been really fun to watch too as a fan. I'm curious about your match with Bo Nickel. You said earlier in the interview that NCAA title your senior year, that finals match was tough. What were the emotions like, kind of knowing you were going to wrestle Bo again, and then what did it feel like getting the win?
It's not, you try to not make that match personal. It's, but at the end of the day, a guy beats you for your third national title. It's like, all right, I really want to get this done. And it felt good. It didn't really mean much things based upon the car this year. It was no end game or anything like that. So it was nice, and it was good, and it was fun. It was great to compete always, especially right now. It's important to compete, and that's the main reason why we put that together, and we did that was to get matches. But at the end of the day, like this Friday and Saturday is a goal,
Yeah.
So everything's preparation for that.
Compare, attempting to make this Olympic team, and then obviously then wanting to go win gold with attempting to want to win an NCAA title, first, second, or third, in the sense of like in college, did you take time or just happen to visualize being on that stage and being on ESPN and winning? And now do you visualize yourself wrestling against David and or Zahid and or Krugliev or whoever from Russia or wherever?
I think in college I did. I did a lot of vision. I do a lot of vision stuff in my mind where I would see myself running out there on Saturday night wrestling for a national title. For me, this time around, I'm big. I think part of being just, more seasoned is knowing that it's a match at a time. It's not getting yourself emotionally caught up in any of the big picture stuff, but just going a match at a time. And then especially in this tournament on Friday, it's like, number one, you're wrestling Miles Martin out the gate, so it's about Miles Martin right now. And then whoever the next guy is, it will be about them. And then whoever the next guy is, it will be about them. And just taking one match at a time is important when you get into these huge events and these crazy competitions. And that's where I'm keeping my mindset right now. So right now it's about taking care of business with Miles Martin, and it's just what it's at.
In the same breath, you talk about Mike Gray, who's amazing at game plans. Would it be get through Miles, see who's next, or at some point likely be David? Then come up with the David game plan. If you beat him, then come up with Zahid or whoever else is makes it through the bottom, or is there a component that's like, all right, kind of put these game plans together and then set them to the side and focus on Miles?
Number one, there's the overall game plan, which is just to compete and wrestle hard, and then there's little details that aren't too significant. Right now, those little details are just focused on Miles. Assuming we get through Miles, we will sit down and we will go through little details against David. The first match against David, the first 3 minutes, you could say I barely even wrestled. So I didn't really start wrestling until the second half. I mean, the big thing is just you got to wrestle 6 minutes hard against that guy. I mean, that's what his MO is. He wrestles really hard. He attacks, and you got to meet him right there. So assuming we get to that stage and we get to that next match, The next Friday and Saturday for me, I'm wrestling every single match like it's my last. So, and that's the way it's going to be. And I'll have my little details in there from Coach Gray and my coaches, but I'm going in like it's just going to be the last time I step on a wrestling mat, and that's the kind of mindset I have. So,
There will be no 2024 run.
I mean, you say these things, and then you find yourself wrestling them again. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not going to say yes or no, but we'll see.
Sure. All right, man. Last thing, this is not Olympic trials talk. This is broad career talk, and we've had you on a couple times. I don't know if we ever did this game, but we call it wins and whoopings. So I'm trying to think back of your whole career, or I'd like you to think back to your whole career from the first match you ever took as a youth to your most recent match. Is there one win that stands out as just a great win for whatever reason, and one loss where you just like got your ass whooped so bad you came off the mat and you felt like less of a person?
Well, I think my one whooping was when I got headlocked and pinned by a girl, and then I acted paralyzed on a mat.
Yeah.
I think when I was army crawling, screaming, I couldn't feel my legs when I was on the mat after I got headlocked and pinned. I think that will be my whooping for sure. Made me question ever wrestling again for sure. And then my win. I was actually a freshman in high school. I was I was not good at all, but we had this crazy duel. The winner of this duel was going to go out and win the team state championship. And I was wrestling this senior, and I'd wrestled him 2 times before that year, and he had stalled me out the first time, and then he majored me the second time. And there was 3,000 people in this gym, and then they had to take everybody else and put them in the auditorium and stream the duel onto the auditorium screen. Huge rivalry. Winner was going to go on and win a team state championship. Regional finals. Loser goes home, and I beat him. And that was just like the most. That was the first time I had a very prominent sports moment, and it was on. That was the first time. That was probably my best, the start of this whole journey. So,
And
yep.
stands out as one of your most memorable wins. And you've had a lot, so that says something. And I'm just picturing in my mind they hoisted you up and carried you out on their shoulders. That's how I see it, like Loudon Swain.
No, my dad wouldn't allow that, but it was a really cool moment to not just share with the team, but my father as the head coach at the time, and winning a team state championship with him.
Was it at home?
No, it was at their place. So it was at Greenville, which is about 30 minutes up the road. So yeah, it was wild.
Everybody got quiet or what?
No, because there was just as many Lowell people there, well, my town people there as there was theirs. And it was nuts because they had to cut everybody off, and there was about another 1,000 people in the auditorium watching it being streamed on the screen there. It was like the first time I'd competed in front of a crowd like that or done anything like that, and the stakes were so high, and it was cool. It was just a neat moment for
That's awesome.
14-year-old kid.
Yeah. Sounds incredible. Very, very memorable. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And it's been great, listening to listening to you today, and just, being being a part, but covering your journey from Cornell through at least this weekend and quite possibly beyond, so to Tokyo. Any parting words before we let you get going, Gabe?
No, I appreciate you guys always having me on, and thank you so much for all that you do for the sport of wrestling. So you guys always.
Awesome, man. You're a little bit frozen, but I heard that. I think so. Best of luck. I'll see you in Fort Worth, and go get them. Have a great day. All right, Gabe Dean. Man, I to think he's back and legitimately in the mix.
Look, 86 kilos. Coming into this year, it's David Taylor. You would look at the 6 weight classes and you're like, okay, really interested in Dake Burrows, really interested in Cox Snyder, really interested in, can Gable get over the hump with Gwiz? But 86 was like, it's David Taylor's weight. He's number 1 in the world. He's number 5 in the world, pound for pound. No question. And then Gabe enters the mix, has a really close match with him. Zahid's in there too. 86 is one of the most interesting weights now, period. And Gabe's a big reason.
Yeah. Can't wait. The Olympic trials goes down this weekend on NBC and Peacock. Really excited. We're going to be there. Keeping you updated with what's going on. So, that's going to do it. Thanks for tuning in, y'all. And we will see you tomorrow.